What does being a disciple of Jesus look like? What does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus? Jesus says we must remain connected to him just as a branch to a vine. Jesus says we must bear good fruit, and we will if we just remain in him. Jesus says, let my word remain in you. He says that's what it means to be a disciple. If only it were so easy to get that all figured out. The early church had a hard time getting it all figured out. They were squabbling among themselves of what true followers of Jesus look like. Paul was convinced that a true follower of Jesus would be anyone whom the Spirit lived in. He went and visited all kinds of communities and saw the Spirit at work in them, even communities where there were Hellenists and Greeks and traditional Jews. Paul could see God's Spirit at work in all of them. Paul could see Jesus in all of them. But among themselves, they weren't so quick to do that. They divided themselves up. The Hellenists had their meal over there, and the Greeks had their meal over there, and the traditional Jews had their meal over there. They wouldn't even sit at the same table with each other. And then the squabbling started about circumcision. Circumcision was always required for the traditional Jews. How could those Greeks and Hellenists, how could they say that they were part of God's chosen people without being circumcised? That's where the real test came. If you were really, really a follower of Jesus, that's where the test came. We still squabble among ourselves about what real Catholics look like, what true Catholics look like. I don't know that there's a place for some who are seeking and some who are struggling and some who are fallen. I don't know where we allow a place for them in the church. There are some that are calling only for true devout Catholics. It's an age-old problem. It's been an age-old struggle for the church. How do we make room for the Spirit? What does it mean for us to be followers of Jesus? What does it mean for us to say that his word remains in us? What does it mean for us to say that his mercy falls on all of us? That the effects of his suffering and death and resurrection are once and for all of us, and that that's all that's needed. His mercy and love, his word in us. It's an age-old struggle for the life of the church. Paul was its herald. Paul was the one who went to St. Peter, who was head of the church. And Peter was the one who was willing to turn a blind eye for all three of those different table gatherings. And Paul said, no, not 3 tables, 1 table. Not 3 sacrifices, 1 sacrifice for all. Let's be mindful in our own lives about what Jesus is calling us to. What it means for each one of us here this morning, and all of you watching us this morning. What does it mean for us to say, he lives in me, and he remains in me, and I shall cling to him, and he shall bear fruit?